Come on, the horse is a skeleton. The lion skeletonized the horse like a piranha. Hello everybody out there in YouTube land, Noodle here. Today we're back again with the 39 steps, the stunning conclusion, hopefully. And here we go. All seems lost, but could Scudder's pocketbook hold the secret to the Blackstone's whereabouts? Play. It's been the next day, actually, so I've had 1 day or 2 days in between these recordings from the last one. And yeah, I have been dying. Sunday, 14 June, 1914, Queen Anne's Gate, London.
And I feel reassured.
Sir Walter!
Gentlemen!
5 surprised faces look up from a round table. There was Sir Walter and Drew, the war ministers, whom I knew from his photographs. There was a slim elderly man who was probably Whittaker, the Admiralty official. And there was General Winstanley, conspicuous from the long scar on his forehead. Lastly, there was a short, stout man with an iron-gray mustache and bushy eyebrows. This must have been Royer.
This is Mr. Hannay, of whom I have spoken to you. I'm afraid, Hannay, this visit is ill-timed.
That remains to be seen, sir. But I think it may be in the nick of time. For God's sake, gentlemen, tell me who went out a minute ago.
Sir Walter's face reddened with anger.
Lord Alloa.
It was not. It was his living image, but it was not Lord Alloa. It was someone who recognized me, someone I have seen in the last month. He had scarcely left the doorstep when I rang up Lord Alloa's house and was told he had come in half an hour before and had gone to bed.
Who?
The Black Stone.
Nonsense.
I'm glad he's alive. Fuck. I sat down in the chair so recently vacated and looked around at 5 badly scared men. Sir Walter got up and left the room while we looked blankly at the table. He came back in 10 minutes with the long face.
I have spoken to Alloa. Had him out of bed, very grumpy. He went straight home after Malross's dinner.
But it's madness. Do you mean to tell me that that man came here and sat beside me for the best part of half an hour and that I didn't detect the imposture? Alloa must be out of his mind.
I was getting back my coolness.
Don't you see the cleverness of it? You were too interested in other things to have any eyes. You took Lord Alloa for granted. If it had been anybody else, you might have looked more closely, but it was natural for him to be here, and that put you all to sleep.
Royer bent his wide brows on the assembly.
Young man is right. His psychology is good. Our enemies have not been foolish. I will tell you a tale. It happened many years ago in Senegal.
Oh God. Do I get a reel? Yes! I get so excited when I see these. Royer's close shave. Dun dun dun. Many years ago, the General Royer was quartered at a remote station in Senegal. There's Senegal right there, next to the A in Africa. To pass the time, he finished for a big barbel in the river. Oh look, there it is, the big barbel. I'll be back soon, girl, he said with the fist waving in the air. And he left his horse to watch the fish. Oh no, one morning his horse was unaccountably restless. It looks restless to me. Could be that giant lion. Royer kept soothing her with his voice, his mind intent on fishing. Oh, I'll get you, you slippery. I'll be back soon, girl. Waving his fist. Yes, I caught the fish. A couple of hours passed. Ooh, I got 2 fish. Oh, 3 in the shore. Lovely. I'll just leave them to rot. And my fishing pole. Come on, the horse is a skeleton. The lion skeletonized the horse like a piranha. Roar! Roya stood face to face with an old man-eater, the terror of the village. Roar. What, did he, like, point his finger at it?
What happened?
I was enough of a hunter to know a true yearn when I heard it.
I stuffed my fishing rod into his jaws, and I had a pistol. Also, my servants came presently with rifles. But he left his mark on me.
He held up a hand which lacked 3 fingers.
Consider. The mare had been dead more than an hour, and the brute had been patiently watching me ever since. I never saw the kill, for I was accustomed to the mare's fretting, and I never marked her absence, for my consciousness of her was only of something tawny, and the lion filled that part. If I could blunder thus, gentlemen, in a land where men's senses are keen, why should we busy, preoccupied urban folk not err also?
What? Sir Walter nodded. No one was ready to gainsay him.
Well, I suppose there is nothing for it but to change the plans.
Whitaker was looking very glum.
Did you tell Lord Alloa what has happened? No? Well, I can't speak with absolute assurance, but I'm nearly certain we can't make any serious change, unless we alter the geography of England.
He paused and looked around. Oh, I think there's a way we can do that. Call the Americans!
God, and we have not a rag of a clue.
Besides, there is the post. By this time the news will be on its way.
No. You do not understand the habits of the spy. He receives personally his reward, and he delivers personally his intelligence. We in France know something of the breed. Now, there is still a chance, mes amis. These men must cross the sea, and there are ships to be searched and ports to be watched. Believe me, the need is desperate for both France and Britain.
France! I had a sudden inspiration.
Where is Scudder's book? Quick, man. I remember something in it.
What is it?
Oh God. If only I could scribble down notes fast enough.
39 steps. 39 steps. I counted them. High tide, 10:17 p.m.
What relevance is all...
The Admiralty man was looking at me as if he thought I'd gone mad.
Don't you see? It's a clue. Scudder knew where these fellows laired. He knew where they were going to leave the country, though he kept the name to himself. Tomorrow was the day, and it was some place where high tide was at 10:17.
But they may have gone tonight.
Not they. They have their own snug, secret way, and they won't be hurried. I know Germans, and they are mad about working to a plan. Where the devil can I get a book of tide tables?
Whitaker brightened up.
It's a chance. Let's go over to the Admiralty.
Okay, let's go. We got into 2 of the waiting motor cars. Sir Walter went off to Scotland Yard to mobilize McGillivray. I take it we're going to the Aqua thingy. Admiralty. There it is. Let's go. I've seen that map before. That was on the, that's the same map they used for the country club. A resident clerk was unearthed who presently fetched from the library the Admiralty tide tables. Oh, he fetched it. Why am I fetching it? I sat at the desk and the others stood around. For somehow or other, I had got charge of this expedition, but it was no good. As far as I could see, 1017 might cover 50 places. We had to find some way of narrowing the possibilities. There must be some way of reading this riddle. Oh, the riddle. The steps. What did Scudler mean by steps? If it were dock steps, why mention the number? It must be some place with several staircases and one marked out from the others by having 39 steps. High tide. Why was high tide so important? It must be some little harbor or no harbor at all. There were no sets of staircases on any harbor that I had seen. The place must be a bit of open coast. Germany. He's a man in a hurry. He wants a speedy and secret passage that wouldn't travel by a big boat from regular harbor. There's no regular steamer sailing at that hour. Which coast? I must put myself in the enemy's shoes. I wouldn't leave from Channel or the west coast. Scotland is too far. I should try for Ostend or Antwerp or Rotterdam. I should sail from anywhere on the east coast between Cromer and Dover. Non-elementary. This is all guesswork. I'm no kind of Sherlock Holmes, but I do have a feeling about all this. No time. Time is running out. 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 Done. Done. I set out all my conclusions on a bit of Admiralty paper. Place where several sets of fairly certain a place where there are several sets of stairs, one that mattered distinguishably by having 39 steps. Full tide at 10:17 p.m., leaving shore only possible at full tide. Steps not dock steps, so place possibly not harbor. No regular night steamer at 10:17 means a transport must be tramp, unlikely yacht or fishing boat. Guessed. Place not harbor but open coast, small boat, trawler, yacht, or launch, someplace between east coast and between Cromer and Dover. Sir Walter joined us and presently McGillivray arrived. He had set out instructions to watch the ports and railway stations for the 3 men whom I described to Sir Walter. Not that he or anybody else thought that they would do much good.
Here's the most I can make of it. We have got to find a place where there are several staircases down to the beach, one of which has 39 steps. I think it's a piece of open coast with biggish cliffs, somewhere between the Wash and the Channel. Also, it's a place where full tide is at 10:17 tomorrow night.
Then an idea struck me.
Is there no inspector of Coast Guards, or some fellow like that knows the East Coast?
Why, yes, there is. He lives in Clapham. Let me get him now.
It's only 4 hours away. I'll start running. He went off in a car to fetch him. I lit a pipe and went over the whole thing again until my brain grew weary. About 1 in the morning, the Coast Guard man arrived. He was a fine old fellow with the look of a naval officer and was desperately respectful to the company.
This is the chap.
Good evening, gentlemen.
We want you to tell us the places you know on the east coast where there are cliffs and where several sets of steps run down to the beach.
What kind of steps do you mean, sir? There are plenty of places with roads cut down through the cliffs, and most roads have a step or two in them. Or do you mean regular staircases, all steps, so to speak?
Whittaker looked towards me.
We mean regular staircases.
He reflected a minute or two.
I don't know that I can think of any. Wait a second. There's a place in Norfolk, Brattlesham, beside a golf course, where there are a couple of staircases to let the gentleman get a lost ball.
That's not it.
Then there are plenty of marine parades, if that's what you mean. Every seaside resort has them.
I shook my head.
It's got to be more retired than that.
Well, gentlemen, I can't think of anywhere else. Of course, there's the Rough.
What's that?
The big chalk headland in Kent, close to Bradgate. It's got a lot of villas on the top, and some of the houses have staircases down to a private beach. It's a very high-toned sort of place, and the residents there like to keep by themselves.
Where's that? Scanning. Aha! I don't know what any of those numbers
On
mean.
the scent at last. How can I find out what is the tide at the Rough?
I can tell you that, sir. I once was let a house there in this very month, and I used to go out at night to the deep-sea fishing. The tide's 10 minutes before Bradgate.
I closed the book and looked around the table.
If one of those staircases has 39 steps, we have solved the mystery, gentlemen. I want the loan of your car, Sir Walter, and a map of the roads.
Of course.
If Mr. McGillivray will spare me 10 minutes, yes, I think we can prepare something for tomorrow.
Good. I, for one, am content to leave the matter in Mr. Rene's hands.
It was ridiculous of me to take charge of the business like this, but they didn't seem to mind, and after all, I had been in the show from the start. Besides, I was used to rough jobs, and these eminent gentlemen were too clever not to see it. He's Indiana Jones in this whole thing, basically. By 3:30 in the morning, I was tearing past moonlit hedgerows of Kent when McGillivray's best man scaped on the scent behind me. New event, Masters of Disguise. I'm not gonna shadow foot it. This is gonna be the last episode. It might be a little bit longer. I don't know. I haven't even started the timer, which is I'm pretty determined to end this in one video. So, Masters of Disguise. Henry is confident he has the right place, but doubts begin to surface when he sees the target. Masters of Disguise. I need another drink. Monday, 15 June 1914, Bradgate, Kent. Oh, that's a pretty, little area. Oh, yeah, Griffin Hotel. That's fine. Let's go there. Gah! A pink and blue June morning found me at Bradgate looking from the Griffin Hotel over a smooth sea. Oh. A light ship on the cock. Ooh. A light ship on the cock sand seems the size of a bell buoy. A couple of miles further south and much nearer the shore, a small destroyer was anchored. No. Scaife had been in the naval and knew the boat. He told me her name and her commander, so I was sent off a wire to Sir Walter. Collected. Small destroyer. Whoop, in my pocket. What else do we have out here? What's this? The light ship on the cock stand seems the size of a bell buoy. Okay. After breakfast, Scaife got from the house agent a key for the gates of the staircase on the Rough. I walked with him along the sands and sat down in the nook of the cliffs while he investigated half a dozen of them. I didn't want to be seen, but the place at this hour was quite deserted, and all the time I was at that beach I saw nothing but the seagulls. It took him more than an hour to do the job. Everything depended on my guess proving right. He read aloud the number of steps on the different stairs.
34, 35, 42, 47, and 21, where the cliffs get lower. Oh, and 39.
Oh, thank God.
We have them.
We hurried back to town and sent a wire to McGillivray. I wanted half a dozen men, and I directed them to divide themselves among the different specified hotels. Then Scaife set out to prospect the house at the head of the 39 steps. He came back with news that both puzzled and reassured me. The house. The house was called Trafalgar Lodge and belonged to an old gentleman called Appleton, a retired stockbroker, the house agent said. Only 3 servants were kept, a cook, a parlor maid, and a housemaid. The cook was not the gossiping kind and had pretty soon shut the door in his face, but Scaife said that he was positive she knew nothing. The occupants. They were just the sort that you would find in a respectable middle-class household. Mr. Appleton was there a good deal in the summertime and was in the residence now, had been for a better part of a week. Scaife could pick up very little information about him except that he was a decent old fellow who paid his bills regularly and was always good for a fiver for a local charity. Neighbors. The next door there was a new house building which would give good cover for observation. And the villa on the other side was to let, and its garden was rough and shrubbery. I borrowed Sky's telescope and before lunch went for a walk along the rough. I kept well behind the rows of villas and found a good observation point on the edge of the golf course. Sorry, I'm like refilling my drink over here. "39 steps. I observed someone leave the house and saunter along a cliff. I saw it was an old man wearing white flannel trousers, a blue serge jacket, and a straw hat. He carried field glasses and a newspaper. He sat down in one of the iron seats and began to read. Sometimes he would lay down the paper and turn his glasses on the sea. He looked for a long time at the destroyer. I watched the elderly man for half an hour until he got up and went back into the house for his luncheon when I returned to the hotel for mine. This decent commonplace dwelling was not what I had expected. The man might be a bald archaeologist at that horrible moorland farm, or he might not. He was exactly the kind of satisfied old bird you'll find in every suburb and every holiday place. If you want a type of the perfectly harmless person, you would probably pitch on that. After lunch I perked up, for I saw a thing I had hoped for and had dreaded to miss. Oh. Her name was Arinde. Skype said that she was a fast boat for her build and that she was pretty heavily engineered. Skype and I went down to the harbor and hired a boatman for an afternoon's fishing. About 4 o'clock, I made the boatman row us around the yacht, which lay like a delicate white bird ready at a moment to flee. One of the men was polishing the brasswork. I spoke to him and he got an answer in the soft dialect of Essex. Another hand that came along passed me the time of day in an unmistakable English tongue. Our boatman had an argument with one of them about the weather, and for a few minutes we lay on our oars close to the starboard bow. And then the men suddenly disregarded us and bent their heads to their work as an officer came along the deck. He was a pleasant, clean-looking young fellow, but he put a question to us about our fishing in very good English. But there could be no doubt about him. His close-cropped hair and the cut of his collar and the tie never came out of England. "I know Germans." "Who's gonna get you, huh? The Germans?" In the hotel, I met the commander of the destroyer, whom Skype introduced me, and whom I had a few words. Then I thought I would put an hour or two watching Trafalgar Lodge. It's the best steakhouse in the world. They did some fishing, did a little hiking, ate some lunch, played some tennis. They played with tremendous zest, like two city gents who wanted hard exercise to open their pores. They shouted and laughed and stopped for drinks when a maid brought out 2 tankards on a slaver. Imposters? You couldn't conceive a more innocent spectacle. I rubbed my eyes and asked myself if I was not the most immoral fool on earth. Mystery and darkness had hung about the men who hunted me over the Scotch moor, an aeroplane, and motor car, and notably about that infernal antiquarian. It was easy enough to connect these folk with a knife that pinned Scudler to the floor and with fell designs on the world peace. But here were 2 guileless citizens talking their innocuous exercise and soon about to go indoors for a humdrum dinner where they would talk of market prices and the last cricket scores. Suspicions. The thing that worried me was the reflection of that my enemies knew that I had got my knowledge from Scudder, and it was Scudder who had given me the clue to this place. If they knew that Scudder had this clue, would they not be certain to change their plans? I had talked confidently last night about Germans always sticking to a scheme, but if they had any suspicion that I was on their track, they would be fools not to cover it. I've been making a net to catch vultures and falcons, and lo and behold, 2 plump thrushes had blundered into it. Presently, a third figure arrived, a young man on a bicycle. He was welcomed riotously by the players. Yeah, these words. These big words. Jeez, I only have a high school education. Come on.
Right there, Percy.
Yes, you're looking a little hot under the collar.
I've got into a proper lather. This'll bring down my weight and my handicap, Bob. I'll take you on tomorrow and give you a stroke a hole.
Whoa, I'll give you stroke a hole. They all went into the house and left me feeling a precious idiot. I would rather have walked into a den of anarchists, each with his brownie handy, or faced a charging lion with a pop gun, than enter a happy home of 3 cheerful Englishmen and tell them that their game was up. But then I remembered old Peter Pinar. He was the best scout I ever knew, and before he had turned respectable, he had been pretty often on the windy side of the law. Peter once discussed with me the question of disguises, and he had a theory which struck me at the time. He said, bearing absolute certainties like fingerprints, mere physical traits were very little used for identification if the fugitive really knew his business. The only thing that mattered was what Peter called atmosphere. Those chaps didn't need to act, they just turned a handle and passed into each other's life, which came as naturally to them as the first. Peter used to say that it was the big secret of all the famous criminals. This recollection gave me the first real comfort I had that day. Peter had been a wise old bird, and these fellows I was after were about the pick of the aviary. I was now getting on for 8 o'clock, and I went back and saw Skype to give him instructions. I arranged with him how to place his men, and then I went for a walk. I didn't feel up to any dinner. It took all my resolution to stroll towards Trafalgar Lodge. On the way, I got a piece of solid comfort from the sight of a greyhound that was swinging along at a nursemaid's heel. He reminded me of a dog I used to have in Rhodesia. Alright, last chapter. Could Henny have gotten it all wrong? The final stand would reveal all. I don't know, guys. You think you got it? You think you didn't? Pause the video. Leave a comment down below. Don't change your answer. Monday, 15 June 1914. Bradgate, Kent. I'm going to say he got it wrong. They're going to catch him anyway, but he got it wrong. I arrived once again in Trafalgar Lodge. Skype's men would be posted by now, but there was no sign of a soul. Oh, we're just going to straight ring the doorbell, huh? Hello? Hello? I gotta wave it around a little bit.
Is, Mr. Appleton at home?
Yes, sir. Please, come in.
My plan had been to walk straight into the dining room and by sudden appearance wake in the men that start of recognition would come from my theory. But when I found myself in that neat hall, the place mastered me.
Who may I say is calling?
Richard Hannay.
If you could wait in the smoking room, I'll let Mr. Appleton know you're here.
Realizing my mistake, I pulled myself together and ran after the maid. But I was too late.
Mr. Hannay? Did you wish to see me?
I think we have met before, and I guess you know my business.
The light in the room was dim, but so far as I could see their faces, they played the part of mystification very well.
Maybe. I haven't a very good memory, but I'm afraid you must tell me your errand, sir, for I really don't know it.
Well then, I've come to tell you that the game's up.
Oh, all the time I seemed to myself to be taking pure foolishness.
I have a warrant for the arrest of you 3 gentlemen.
Arrest? Arrest? Good God, what for?
He looked really shocked.
For the murder of Franklin Scudder in London on the 23rd day of last month.
I never heard the name before.
That was the Portland Place murder. I read about it. Good heavens. You must be mad, sir. Where do you come from?
Scotland Yard.
Though I had an ounce of confidence in me, I forced myself to play the game.
Don't get flustered, Uncle. It's all a ridiculous mistake. But these things happen sometimes, and we can easily set it right. It won't be hard to prove our innocence. I can show you that I was out the country on the 23rd of May, and Bob was in a nursing home. You were in London, but you can explain what you were doing.
Right, Percy. Of course, that's easy enough. The 23rd. That was the day after Agatha's wedding. Let me see, what was I doing? Came up in the morning from Woking and lunched at the club with Charlie Simons. Then, oh yes, I dined with the fishmongers. I remember, for the punch didn't agree with me and I was seedy next morning. Hang it all, there's the cigar box I brought back from the dinner.
I'm going to say this right now. You know the difference between a good story and a bad story. I saw this in a movie one time, and they were trying to explain. I don't remember the movie. Somebody will probably remember it. But there was a scene where they were trying to tell him how he can tell a lie, a convincing story that's not real. And a convincing story isn't about the main plot at all. It's about the tiny little details, the little things that you notice. For example, you could say, yeah, I went to go see my dentist at noon. That's where I was. I was at the dentist office. It's another thing to say, yeah, I remember I got in my car and it was really hot. And I had to go to the dentist office. And the only reason I remember that is because I thought it was really weird. Because when I walked in, there was this really fat lady sitting in the chair. She was waiting. And she was like breathing really heavy. I thought the entire time she was going to have a heart attack. If I came up to you and told you that story, you would believe that I was at the dentist more so than when I just kind of walked in and said, oh yeah, I had to go to the dentist. These guys, if they are lying, are the masters of crafting the tiny details. I went to dinner with the fishmongers. There's a cigar box. I remember the punch didn't agree with me. Little details. Best liars ever. After that, for a minute, there was utter silence. The old man was staring at his plate and fumbling with a nut, the very model of innocent bewilderment.
I think, sir, you will see you are mistaken. We want to assist the law like all Englishmen, and we don't want Scotland Yard to be making fools of themselves. That so, Uncle?
Certainly, Bob.
The old fellow seemed to be recovering his voice.
Certainly. We'll do anything in our power to assist the authorities, but this is a bit too much. I can't get over it.
How Nellie will chuckle. She always said you would die of boredom because nothing ever happened to you. Now, you've got it thick and strong.
It couldn't be acting. It was too confoundingly genuine.
Oh, yes, just think of it. What a story to tell at the club. Really, Mr. Hannay, I suppose I should be angry to show my innocence, but it's too funny. I almost forgive you the fright you gave me. You looked so glum. I thought I might have been walking in my sleep and killing people.
To cover my confusion, I got up, walked to the door, and switched on the electric light. The sudden glare made them blink, and I stood scanning the three faces. I made nothing of it. One was old and bald, one was stout, and one was dark and thin. They seemed exactly what they professed to be, and I could not have sworn to one of them. I could see nothing to connect them with the moorland desperados.
Well, are you reassured by your scrutiny, sir?
I couldn't find a word.
I hope you'll find it consistent with your duty to drop this ridiculous business. I make no complaint, but you'll see how annoying it must be to respectable people.
I shook my head.
Oh, Lord. This is a bit too thick.
Do you propose to march us off to the police station? That might be the best way out of it, but I suppose you won't be content with the local branch. I have the right to ask to see your warrant, but I don't wish to cast any aspersions upon you. You're only doing your duty. But you'll admit, It's horribly awkward. What do you propose to do?
I propose that you should die. For a moment, I was very near damning myself for a fool for asking their pardon.
Meantime, I vote we have a game of bridge. It'll give Mr. Hanny time to think over things. Well, you know we've been wanting a fourth player. Do you play, sir?
I accepted it as if it had been an ordinary invitation at the club.
Yes, I play.
I felt mesmerized by the whole place, by the air of obvious innocence. Not innocence merely, but frank, honest bewilderment and concern in the three faces. We went into the smoking room where a card table was set out, and I was offered things to smoke and drink. The three were talking easily, just the kind of slangy talk you would hear in any golf clubhouse. I must have cut a rum figure, sitting there knitting my brow with the eyes wandering. My partner was the young dark one. I played a fair hand at bridge, but I must have been rank bad that night. They saw that and got me. They saw that they had got me puzzled, and that put them more than ever at their ease. I kept looking at their faces, but they conveyed nothing to me. It was not that they looked different; they were different. I clung desperately to the words of Peter Pinard. Then it happened. Oh, hell yeah, it was the movement I remember when he had stood before me in the moorland farm with the pistols of his servants behind me. Some shadow lifted from my brain and I was looking at the three men with full and absolute recognition. The Black Stone. Bob. The dark lean man, he was the murderer. Now I saw cruelty and ruthlessness, for before I had only seen good humor. His knife had skewered Scudler to the floor, and his kind had put the bullet in Carolide's. Percy. The plump man's features seemed to dislimn and form again as I look at them. I hadn't a face, only 100 masks could assume when he pleased. The chap must have been a superb actor. Perhaps he had been Lord Aloha the night before, perhaps not. It didn't matter. I wondered if he was the fellow that at first tracked Scudler and left his card on him. Scudler had said he lisped, and I could imagine how the adaptation of a lisp might add terror. Appleton. He was the pick of the lot. He was by sheer brain icy, cool, calculating, as ruthless as a steam hammer. Now that my eyes were open, I wondered where I had seen this benevolence. His jaw was like chilled still, and his eyes had the inhuman luminosity of a bird. Hawk lids. Ha! I went on playing, and every second a greater hate welled up in my heart.
Bob, look at the time. You better think about catching your train. Bob's got to go to town tonight.
His voice rang now as false as hell. I looked at the clock and it was nearly 10:30.
I'm afraid he must put off his journey.
Oh, damn. I thought you'd dropped that rot. I simply got to go. You can have my address, and I'll give you any security you like.
No, you must stay.
I'll go bail for my nephew. That ought to content you, Mr. Hanny.
As I glanced at him, his eyelids fell in that hawk-like hood which fear had stamped in my memory. A pair of strong arms gripped me around the waist, covering the pockets in which a man had I expected to carry a pistol.
Get your hands off me! Schnell, Franz! Das Boot! Das Boot!
I grappled the old chap, and the room seemed to fill with figures. I saw a plump one collared, but my eyes were all out for the out of doors, where Franz sped over the road towards the railed entrance to the beach stairs. One man followed him, but he had no chance. I stood staring with my hands on the old boy's throat for such a time as a man might take to descend those steps to the sea. Suddenly my prisoner broke from me and flung himself on the wall. The stairway had been completely destroyed.
He is safe. You cannot follow in time. He's gone. He has triumphed. Der schwarze Stein ist in der Siegeskrone.
There was more in those eyes than any common triumph. They had been hooded like a bird of prey, and now they flamed with the hawk's pride. This man was more than a spy. In his foul way, he had been a patriot. As the handcuffs clinked on his wrist, I said my last word to
I
him.
hope Franz will bear his triumph well. I ought to tell you that the Ariadne for the last hour has been in our hands.
The end. Well, that was the 39 steps. I hope you guys enjoyed the story as much as I did. I thought it was great. I thought the ending could have had a little bit more of a punch to it. I thought they did a really good job kind of like tricking you. Maybe it wasn't the right people, maybe it was. I totally lost. I said that wasn't going to be them, but it totally was. I don't know. I liked it. For what it was, I liked it. Would I play this kind of game again? I don't know. Maybe. But like I said, this really isn't my cup of tea. But it was short. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. And yeah, let me know what you guys thought of it. So these things are so loud. I'm like pulling off my headphones a little bit. Did they really put like techno beats in here? Okay, so I guess that's it. I really don't have anything else to say about this game. I thought it was pretty cool. I liked it. Let me know what you guys think in the. This music's throwing me off. Let me know. Let me hear what you guys had to say about this game down in the comments below. Did you like the story? You didn't? I thought it kind of dragged on in the beginning. It was just like, God, get to the fucking point. And then when he was actually starting to run away and he was being pursued, it picked up a lot. And then it kind of turned into the spy twist at the end. And I did kind of like that a lot. I liked the art style. I thought it was really well done. I liked the gameplay. I thought it was great. I think that the writing, the scribbling to unlock things and to open things, I thought that was a bit much. It was like they tried to add things in here to make it like a game. I found it kind of tedious, but there were a few times where it actually did play off, like when they were eating, or when he was eating the pie, or like when he was opening the box and like setting the bomb. I thought that was pretty cool. But like unlocking the door, opening the book, not necessary at all. So yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. And yeah, I guess I see you guys in the next series. Peace out, everybody.
Steps. I counted them.
They're coming!
Wednesday, 4 July, 1914. I didn't know there was more to this.
3 weeks later, as all the world knows, we went to war. I joined the new army the first week, and owing to my Matabele experience, got a captain's commission straight off. But I had done my best service, I think, before I put on khaki.
Congratulations, you have completed the 39 steps. We hope you enjoyed playing the story as much as we did making it. Hopefully, see you for our next digital adaptation. Maybe.